I'm going to throw this out there a little bit early in the broadcast because I think this is a big point with regard to Tiger. Everybody knows and everybody has talked about when the PGA Tour came into existence, it was Arnie and Jack, and it was really Arnie. And when Greg tried to do this, 20 years ago, have a world tour, Arnie walked in and said, no, we're not having a world tour. And everybody said, okay, next thing on the agenda. Tiger wants to be the Arnie of his generation. Tiger wants to be able to walk into a room, say, hey, we're merging with Liv. Let's do it. And everybody says yes. Or we're never going to talk to these Liv guys again. And everybody says, yeah, that's right. Let's never talk to them again. That's Tiger. That's what Tiger is aiming for.
Maybe there is something to be had. But I think Greg has to go, first of all. And then obviously the litigation against us and then our countersue against them. Those would then have to be at a stay as well. So then we can talk. We can all talk freely.
And especially when you look at, Tiger calls Rory or texts Rory, and back in the spring when the Live Tour was going to be an entity and they weren't going to stop at cold turkey, and says, hey, hey, Rory, I can help you with your short game. I can help you with your wedge game. Really? Really? That's not the Tiger Woods I know, right?
No, he's not Mr. Helpful.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, he's moving to the next phase. Yes. I think that's an excellent point. I mean, your point is that Tiger and Rory do not have a long history of friendship, and that Tiger wants to be the Arnold Palmer of his generation. True?
True, exactly. He wants to be the guy calling the shots now.
Yeah. But I think that the Rory observation of them not being friends is an excellent observation, because that's easy to just skip over. Like, the casual person would think, well, they must have always been friends. Nah. Dark Star is saying that Tiger and Rory had no real friendship, over the last 10, 15 years. Why would they? He's a rival. Tiger's trying to win majors. Rory's winning majors in that same time frame. Friendly, yes. Friends, not so much. So, yeah, I think that's an excellent point. But now all of a sudden, they're buddies. And why is that? And I think your theory is that Tiger is using Rory. Is that true?
Well, he's using them. They're using each other, because obviously now they're engaged in the. Let's not forget about Tomorrow Sports. Let's not forget this is not going to air before they have this match with Justin and Jordan. As I need to say in every single episode, if your name's not Rory, Tiger, Justin, or Jordan, you're getting screwed over by the PGA Tour. So it's a mutual where Tiger realizes he's entering the next phase of his career, and that's to be a locker room leader, a boardroom leader. And Rory's still going to be out there winning tournaments, being competitive, and Tiger to some degree may be living on the course through Rory, and Rory financially is going to gain significantly by following Tiger's footsteps with his potential. And his potential is to take things over.
Yeah, let's get that in right now. So what's in this for Tiger? He sees this comment from Random Rory. Greg's got to go. Greg needs to be fired before anything can happen. Tiger says, yeah, well, I need to be CEO of golf, and Greg is not somebody that I want in my way. So Greg is a rival to Tiger, and a worthy rival, and Tiger is smart enough to know that. Greg has an actual business track record, whereas Tiger does not. Tiger's been playing golf, and we'll be kind and say Tiger's been busy playing golf for the last 25 years. Greg's been building a business empire for the last 25 years. So Greg has a huge head start. But Tiger wants to be CEO of golf. We've said that back in the Tomorrow Sports episode. That's what Tomorrow Sports is about, we think. And this is just another angle. A merged golf entity, PGA Tour Live. Tiger sees that clearly as Tiger running that show. True, Darkstar?
Yeah, I agree completely. And that's where we talk about the Random Rory comment takes on a life of its own. Now Tiger can run with it. Hey, if I can use this to get rid of Greg, and my other quick aside comment is it'd be great face for the PGA Tour if Greg goes and then they can, sneak Jay out a side door. Jay will just sort of, I need to resign. It's been too much stress. Because, as we said, they're behind the 8 ball. They're getting
too much stress.
I can't.
Yeah, he would say that too, and that's hilarious. It's like, it's like cardiac surgery, isn't it, Jay? I mean, you've got the life right in your hands, the beating heart. Yeah, no, it's not like that, Jay. You run a golf tour. Come on.
Yeah. Well, you ran a golf tour with no competition, so you could do and say whatever you wanted, and it's now
a monopoly golf tour. Yeah, that exactly. How hard is that?
Right. He fumbled on the goal line, actually dropped the ball. He didn't even get hit. So.
Something that he didn't build either. I mean, being the CEO of Walmart's not too tough if you didn't build it. You're just there, and it's running itself essentially. I think that's all good. What does this say about the PGA Tour? So I'm saying that Jay approved Random Rory's saying this. So Random Rory comes up with it in the bathroom one night, says, that'll be hilarious. Calls 2 people, whoever his buddies are, and says, wouldn't that be funny? And they all agreed, yeah, it'd be great. Say it, go say it. Everybody, the press will eat it up. So he texts Jay, it probably was a text. Hey, Jay, I'm going to go say, that Greg's got to go. Is that okay? And Monahan's like, sure, say it. So since Jay approves this, and then he hears it, maybe he doesn't think about it a lot at that point, but now it's getting some ground, with the media, and Tiger now picks it up, and now Rory says it again in this next interview with this Irish reporter. So what does this say about Jay and the PGA Tour that they want to see this statement out there, or at least they perceive it to be good for them? Because I have a very strong point of view on that. Well, how do you see that one, Darkstar? Maybe we agree.
Yeah, I don't know what your point of view is going to be, but I would just say that getting rid of Greg opens up a lot of possibilities for them. It opens up, a merger, but more or less, I still think they have they have a lot of cards like the official World Golf Rankings in their pocket, and so they would still like to have Liv as a feeder tour like that, what they've done to the DP Tour. Now, I know you have something different, but go ahead.
I think what it says, insofar Jay has had time to think about it, and other people perhaps that are in powerful positions with the PGA Tour, if you call for the resignation or termination of your rival CEO, it fundamentally says you do not perceive yourself to be in the powerful position. You do not have the upper hand. That's how you are feeling if that's what you're saying. Because if you were in the driver's seat, Elon Musk, I'm going to use that in different episodes, but what would Elon do? What would Jeff Bezos do? If you're in the driver's seat and you're running Apple, you're running Amazon, you're running Tesla, and now Twitter, you don't call for anybody's ouster because you don't need to do that. That's not a thing. It's not a strategy. So you just don't do that. So what does it say about the PGA Tour? And there's a larger point here. I think the PGA Tour, we'll tie this into Tiger's comments down at the Hero. So there's Tiger in the Bahamas going on and on, really, which Tiger doesn't do normally in press conferences, right? But you go look at that. He had a lot to say. For Tiger, a man of few words with the press, he went on and on about, we get rid of Greg, we get rid of these lawsuits, then we can talk. Of course, we can talk. What? Blood money? These evil guys? These greedy people? These bad Saudis? Now you want to talk as long as Greg goes to Siberia? Really? All right, well, let's take Tiger at his word, or we don't even have to. I think that the PGA Tour and their new Super Tour, with all the money and all the stuff they've thrown at, is unsustainable, and they know it. So they look at their financial picture and say, we got problems, not this year, but next year, 24, 25. This doesn't keep going. Throw in that NBC just canned Roger Maltby and Gary Koch, and the interview person, the woman who's been doing the interviews, whose name escapes me, she got canned too. So they canned 3 of their on-air talents and didn't replace them. You don't do that if this product is kicking it. So the golf broadcast product is not doing great. If it were, they wouldn't make those moves. They would replace those guys perhaps, but they have not. They have, and they've said they're not going to. So where's the, we want the money. We need the money. If you're the PGA Tour, they might be feeling that. That's what I think. I think the PGA Tour knows that And you famously, Darkstar, famously said that the PGA Tour doesn't have a big enough stack. I think that's an excellent analogy. They don't have a big enough stack. The Saudi stack is essentially effectively unlimited. And when you're in a corporate war and the other team has unlimited funds, you got a big problem. And this is not news, but now we're seeing it play out. So a merger is, or a hostile takeover is, you could say, inevitable. The only card that the PGA Tour is really holding is the OWGR card. And I think we've put together a nice little theory as to why they're holding that back so firmly, and we can get to that in a second. But what do you think about the PGA Tour being in financial trouble and that being part of this whole equation?
Yeah, I mean, they came up with hundreds of millions of dollars overnight, not even saying where they're coming up with it. And I don't think they're going to be able to reach under the couch and keep pulling out 100 million there, 100 million here, without getting into, you know, some serious hypocrisy. I mean, where's the only other place you can get that kind of money? And we briefly discussed it, obviously, on the last show, is from China, like the NBA does.
Yeah, and the China's not, they're business people. They're not
right.
They're not going to just invest for no reason.
Right. They're not going to throw $100 million at Rory and Tiger without any return.
The Chinese are a giant factory. So they actually have to work for their cash. Yeah. They have to have a world economy that's healthy. They have to have shipping. They have to have a lot of things going on in the real world for them to be printing money. The Saudis have a swimming pool full of oil that they just sell. I mean, it's a pretty straightforward, linear trip from oil field to bank.
Right. And so to reiterate your point quickly is the PGA Tour is going to run out of money. The LIV Tour has an unlimited amount of money. Somehow the PGA Tour has to get into that pile of money. I mean, they have to do it, and until they do it, they're on rocky ground. They're cutting costs at all levels. So,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Now it's ironic, and I won't go down that road, or the road that I'm about to sort of tee up, but it's ironic that oil has recovered so much in the last couple of years. That's just, you know, even better for any oil producing country. And since that's where the LIV money's coming from, then it's been great couple of years in the last, last 24 months or so, for the Saudis and their cash. So that's kind of ironic that you know, the world's economies are where they are, and Europe is doing what it's doing, and the U.S. is doing what it's doing, and it's driving oil higher. And that just makes it worse. So let's bring in the OWGR angle. So it could be that the smart people in the room that are behind the PGA Tour, and there are some, we don't think it's Jay, but there's some smart people, right? There's smart people at Augusta, smart people at the R&A. These are business people, very successful, perhaps tycoons. We don't know who they are, but we figure that it's likely that they're leaders of industry around the world that are behind these entities, particularly Augusta and the R&A, and to some extent the USGA. So they may see the picture very clearly because they're used to corporate, warfare and hostile takeovers, mergers, acquisitions, the whole thing. That's them. That's their DNA. So this would be just another business transaction, and who's going to win? That's really what they'd be interested in. But they do need or want the money for the PGA Tour, because the tour. Let's get real. We bring in that point. So the tour has had an artificial 25-year run here. They've had Mickelson and Tiger, generational stars at the same time, particularly Tiger, of course, that brought in a global focus to a little niche sport that before that wasn't a big deal, except for a small market. And then Tiger made it a huge market. Everybody benefited. And now Tiger's almost 50 years old and terribly hurt, and most likely never going to be competitive again for a tournament victory, probably. So his stock and trade is running out quickly. He's got to show that he can actually play. If he bombs at the Masters this coming year, or bombs at the U.S. Open, which is likely, people are just going to stop paying attention in the sports world. You can't watch a guy fail. That's not interesting. So they are, where are they going to be in 2 years financially? The PGA Tour without Tiger and without Phil.
Well, you see it already. They're struggling.
They're going to struggle. They need another superstar. Rory is, I don't know that he can carry it by himself. He's 32. You know, it's not going to come down to those other guys. It just isn't. Scotty Scheffler, no. It's just there isn't any. And there's Tiger's a once every 50-year kind of guy. I mean, if that, maybe it's that because we had Walter Hagen, we had Bobby Jones, we had Arnold Palmer, we had Tiger Woods. So maybe every 50 years you get one of those guys. Yeah. But so that's a big, huge problem. So they need the money. So the point was, you go ahead, or I'll.
Well, I was just going to say to chime in quickly. We don't see the next Tiger Woods. We don't see the next Jack and Arnie. We do not see even the guys that are going to carry the tour as far as take them to the next level from a rating standpoint, and especially what we don't see in any of the guys on the top 20 in the OWGR. None of those guys have the personality to make people pay for a streaming service, certainly, because that's what the PGA model was before LIV was eating their lunch. And now they have to literally abandon that situation. And go ahead, make your point.
Well, the point to that block was that the golf aristocracy would hold the OWGR participation as their ransom card. So that's their ace in the hole to force the Saudis and the Public Investment Fund to pony up. So let's fast forward. There ain't going to be no merger of any kind until you LIV buy in. So I think what we're seeing here is perhaps the opening salvo of that. Maybe it was randomly started by Random Rory, but now Tiger's picked it up and run with it in a meaningful way, and maybe they'll just backtrack and let it go away. Maybe they won't. But the reality we're saying is that the PGA Tour needs the money. So they need to get after that. So what's going to happen? Well, the OWGR is the calling card, so the PGA Tour can simply say, look, if you want to merge with us in some way, we'll have a interleague play, American League, National League, more of a baseball model, which Dark Star brilliantly introduced months ago as a good answer. You guys can be the evil, Saudi league, and we'll be the good guys, but it'll be a hell of a rivalry, and it'll be very interesting. But to do that, you guys want OWGR points so that your players on LIV can get to the majors. That's what you want. That's all you need from us, essentially, right? The PGA Tour offers them nothing else except that, even though the PGA Tour doesn't technically control the OWGR or the majors. But so pay us money and you give OWGR. That's what's shaping up here. And we'll throw it out there right now. I think the price tag for that is not a penny under $2 billion and probably not more than $4 billion. But if the Saudis want to throw $2, $3, $4 billion at the golf aristocracy through the PGA Tour and have a rival league, and what do they get? OWGR points. So their players all go to the majors, just like anybody else would. A fair system. Then we're done. Then it's just a matter of how do you make it look. But that's a hell of a price tag, and I think all the powers that are currently at B are paid off, and it's all good. And they just need to paper over the blood money stuff that they've put out there for the last 9 months, and they'll find a way to do that.
Sure, they will clearly, they will clearly talk about how the greater good, and these LIV guys, they brought this money in, and now we're going to do what good the PGA Tour has done for all these years. So we're gonna merge these two leagues, or not even merge them. They could still actually be separate entities, but come together at the majors, come together at the players. Those type of things. And yes, we're accepting this money because it helps everybody, both in golf and throughout all of our non-profit organizations that we have been so charitable, our charitable organizations.
It'll be funny how they do it. It'll
Step
one is to just have rival leagues.
You could see me struggling there. I'm not a marketing guy, but I'm sure somebody will paint that picture.
Well,
and look
they'll
like
go to
a
the
Rembrandt.
back room as the parents of the child that got drowned by the alligator at Disney World. Now that's real marketing. Where the statement that came out, Disney said, the parents have agreed not to sue us. That's marketing. Not that we've settled. No, they've agreed not to sue us. That's spin. Brilliant spin, but they'll figure out a way to do it. I think it'll be the PGA Tour versus the villain. LIV will be the villain, but they don't care. They just want the OWGR points and access to the majors, and they can continue doing their thing. And the PGA Tour doesn't get in their way at all, really, at that point. They just want the points. So what are the points worth to Live into the public investment fund. Well, you know, they've already invested $2 billion, maybe another 2, 3, 4. I don't think that's too big of a number. I don't know what the ultimate goals are. Obviously, we don't, but that seems doable. Then we're there. That's kind of the way we're reading this whole situation. We may be a little ahead of ourselves, or interestingly, we may be behind the 8 ball. This may have long been discussed the last 6 months. You know, I'm looking over here at our notes among those guys. And I know we wanted to get out of this episode on another point, which is what happens next.
I think it's easy if they can make Greg the villain. It could be easy for them to. I think they need a villain, right? Like everything else, you need a villain. You make Greg the villain.
Villains are good for ratings,
right? And you know what was very interesting to me in the staged interview that Rory did? He was kind of praising Phil. And I could see where Phil comes along, all of a sudden becomes the white knight. Phil is Jack to Tiger being Arnie. And Rory's still the player. Rory's kind of a go-between those two. Now, if I were to script it, that's how I would do it. I don't think Greg Norman's going to go along with it. But if I were to bring these two things together, having Phil and Tiger for the first time in their 30-year career where they never were seen together and were shown not to get along, having them come together and Rory being still the star player brings those two together and they start running things. Greg's out, the villain's gone, and here we are. Everybody's going to sing Kumbaya, and we're going to do great things with the new blood money.
Rival commissioners. Well, I think that'd be great for ratings.
Yeah, right.
So, throw Greg overboard and elevate Phil. I don't know that that's what the PIF is thinking, the Public Investment Fund, but I think that's an outstanding cheeseburger moment for you, Darkstar. Yeah. Now, the fly in the ointment there is that Tiger may not see that there's enough room for 2, piranhas. There's only one, and that's me.
Let me just say this. I was just going to say, now, that is a pie in the sky, Dr. Darkstar dream. However, there's too many egos for that to happen. Let's cut that off right now.
Well, the wrinkle is that Jack and Arnie actually liked each other.
Yeah,
they were friends. They were actual, real friends. I mean, if you go back, get YouTube, look up Jack's comments at Arnie's memorial service, which was a brilliant service, by the way, across the board. If you haven't seen that, go watch it. We should link to it. A phenomenal job by every speaker, and funny and just wonderful. And Jack, he gave wonderful, heartfelt remarks there. So he and Arnie were buddies, different people, very much so, but at a family level, but buddies. And Tiger and Phil are not that. Yeah, I'm not because you know why? Because Tiger's not Arnie. Tiger's not. He doesn't like people. Well, Arnie did. He just genuinely did, and Tiger genuinely doesn't. So fine, it is what it is. They're not the same human. But there was the closing point on getting out of this show was what happens next, and I think it's probably nothing, because what else can happen? Greg's not going to go anywhere, et cetera, et cetera. But there's one little outlier here, which is another kind of co-strategy if you're Jay Monahan and you're sharp. If you are the CEO of one rival, you throw this test balloon out there, it is useful to see how the other team reacts and to find out, okay, because Greg's not Liv. Greg is the CEO of Liv. Liv is the PIF. It's the Public Investment Fund money. So whoever is administering that money and talking to the prince and the royal family, that's who's in charge. So are they 100% behind Norman? Don't know. Don't know that. Sometimes investors are, and sometimes they're not. Sometimes they will go to war for the CEO because he brought them to where they are, and there's loyalty between both sides, the investors and the CEO. Sometimes there isn't. Sometimes investors see CEOs as interchangeable, or to some degree. And so if you throw this out there and dangle it and say, hey, Saudis, if you get rid of that Norman character, we can sit down. We can move this along. You don't have to wait another 2-3 years. We can move it along. And do the Saudis say, well, Tiger being CEO of the whole thing, that's fine. What do we care? As long as we get what we want, whatever that is. Or do they really see Greg as their guy and they want to have the model that Greg envisions? Is that vision the same? Don't know. So that's an outlier. I think nothing will happen next of any materialness, but we'll keep our eye on the reaction, if any, or the tea leaves of what the Saudis feel about Greg and leaving him in place. What do you think of that, Dark Star?
Well, Greg's their guy today. Greg's their guy right now. Now, as you know, they could throw him under the bus in a second if things would work out, and that's a potential big problem.
And you don't if you're you don't throw Steve Jobs under the bus if he's leading you to the promised land. I mean, he's the guy, right? But I don't know if the Saudis see Greg as that or not. I don't know. The model's been doing pretty well. I think it comes down to whatever they value. Is it Greg's ability to recruit players? Is it Greg's vision? Is it Greg's choices of venues and how he coddles the tournament spot? I don't know. There's a whole lot of moving parts is what Greg is supposed to be doing. We do know that Greg's a good business guy because he's built an empire, small one, but an empire. And that ain't easy to do. So it's an intriguing situation and very intriguing. Do we miss any points?
I'll do it, John, but not because of your little speech, but because I need the money. Hard to believe after all these years, but I need the money.
Yeah, believe it or not, we need the money.
Yeah.
They do. They do need the money, so we'll see what happens. All right, for now, B Team is out.
Yeah, Dr. Darkstar is out.
That's all for this video. For Dr. Darkstar and me, thanks for watching. This is a show about finding logical conclusions, and we appreciate you coming along with us. We'll be adding episodes as fast as we can. There's certainly no shortage of things going on in this world.